Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Boiler One. Today is, shoot. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Boiler One. And in this episode, we will be looking at part three of my roller coaster photos in honor of International Photography Day. And this is Kings Island. This is the Kings Island episode. So we have Banshee. This is the first photo I took from there. It's a B&M inverted coaster, the longest in the world, and in my personal opinion, of the three inverts I've been on so far, it's my favorite. It has the swanky new vest restraints and has a nice long layout, has plenty of height, has really cool, very steep first drop. It's got this vertical loop that goes around the lift hill, which is, very cool to look at. And I think I have more photos of it, so I'll talk to you about it more later, but I do like it now. And one thing in the queue line, you'll see that there's like a sort of stone in memory of Son of Beast, which is the coaster that existed before here. It's one of the most talked about defunct coasters of all time, and it's a pretty cool piece of history. The other part of it was that the old station, you could actually see still standing from the queue line of the Bat, which is a suspended coaster that I sadly didn't get any photos of here, but I will definitely talk about it in a future video. I'll talk about the coasters here because it's pretty cool how the station was all the way out there and the coaster still went as far as Banshee over here. You kind of have to, see the whole thing to believe it, but yeah, I wish I could talk about the Bat more. It was a really cool coaster too, but moving on. This is underneath the lift structure of Orion. It has a really cool, triangle pattern here. It might be a new contender for a fold wallpaper if I do say so myself. It was pretty cool. The clouds. It was kind of a cooler day that day, and it even started to drizzle. But this coaster didn't care and just kept going on through the rain, and it led to a really cool blast of cool air when we got on it. So yeah, it was definitely a really fun coaster. It is definitely not underwhelming. It is nothing shy of a great Giga coaster. I'd still probably rank Millennium Force better than it, but I think it's really cool. I do kind of wish it were longer, but that's alright. It's still really cool with all the height. And this is Diamondback, the park's B&M Hyper Coaster, which is pretty cool as well. Honestly, in my opinion, not the most photogenic at the park. The color scheme that I get fits the Desert Snake theme, but it just kind of makes it look old and dirty. And I got to ride it in the back row, which is cool because I got the little water splash effect. I kind of got sprayed a little, which was fun. Sadly, I was only able to get one ride on it. I was going to get a second one, but I just didn't really fit into the lap bar that time. So I guess the seats are a little different, which is okay though. It's a pretty solid hyper coaster, but it's probably my least favorite hyper coaster so far. I mean, it just feels kind of vanilla compared to Raging Bull and Magnum XL 200, which is, a very different feeling hypercoaster, but that one at least, I don't know, it at least just felt more memorable and more charming to me. Not that I think this coaster is bad, it's just not great, and I think it definitely got overshadowed by Orion. There's another picture of it, you can see more of its big old hills and other hills and more hill. It's got a lot of hill to it, doesn't it? This is Mystic Timbers. This is the GCI wooden coaster. It's the park's second newest coaster. Before Orion, it was built in, I think, 2014 or something like that. And it's pretty cool. It's a very smooth wooden coaster, probably partially because it's new and partially because it's modern. And it may need some work in the future, as all wooden coasters will. But it runs pretty well. It's kind of a more tinny kind of smooth than like a steel coaster, if that makes sense. And it still definitely has a bit of a rattle, but it's a good kind of rattle. Like, it's the kind you'd expect from a wooden coaster, and I think it just adds to the thrills because it's very fast paced. There's a lot of really cool turns and little bunny hills and banking and all of that. A couple trick track elements. And the theming is really cool too. It has kind of like a fantasy horror theme, like Until Dawn or Friday the 13th. And the train is designed to look like an old rusty pickup truck, as if it's like, you know, that old truck that you find in the forest that you use to escape the monsters or the murderer or whatever movie it is. And King's Island has a lot of movie themes, being that it was originally owned by Paramount, I believe, and it still retains a lot of them to this day. Orion had a really cool like Armageddon theme, like space Armageddon theme, in a mission to stop an asteroid from crashing into Earth, which is pretty clever too. And I do like outer space theme quite a bit, and Orion pretty much nailed it. Anyway, back to Mystic Timbers. It's fun. Now that I have more experience with the GCI, I might like maybe come up with one, design one in the future. This is the Great Pumpkin Coaster. This is the Great Pumpkin Coaster, a little E&F Myler Jr. coaster. I didn't get to ride it sadly because I was I was too tall to ride without a kid, but I'm totally okay with that. It still was really neat to look at, and it has a pretty charming look, and it has, of course, the Peanuts theme, as many Cedar Fair parks do nowadays. It probably is a great ride for the young kids. I wouldn't know personally, but it looks like it's smooth and gentle, and still, you know, a fun little ride for the kids. I did get to ride every other park coaster in the park, though, so I'll probably be able to do a full video on the park in the not too distant future. This is Banshee during the rain, and I don't know if it was the rain or the humidity or if it was just like that, but the fog effect on Banshee's sign was really enhanced, and it just looks epic, especially with the roller coaster in the background. You have the really steep first drop. It's taller than it looks in this photo. You have the amazing dive loop, and then a vertical loop, and then a 0G roll. And yeah, it's definitely unlike any other B&M invert because it's so tall and wide and spread out. It kind of has a lot more like vertical G's and a bit less of a lateral whip, but that's okay, as I really like it the way it is. This is a picture of Diamondback from the park's observation tower. It gives you a good kind of view of the layout, and yeah, you got the curved drop here, and a big hill. You got more hills over here. There's one off screen. There's a little trim break, and yeah, and another little hill here. And you can see Mystic Timbers right here too. Yeah, it's pretty cool how the seating is staggered. I mean, I think it might allow the train to be a little narrower, but I can't confirm that. But it kind of seems that way. Yeah, this is Banshee's sign. It's pretty cool. This is the Backlot Stunt Coaster. And this coaster really surprised me in a good way. I didn't expect it to be as just fun and thrilling and charming as it was, but it was really cool. It puts you in a like Hollywood stuntman theme, or yeah, Hollywood stuntman scene where you have to, you know, film like an action film, and you're in these like little cars, and you're racing through stuff. You're like swerving through police cars and up a parking ramp, and some drops. There's some drops, and you even encounter an attack helicopter about halfway through the ride before a second launched into the park's indoor section. And then after it, you burst out this sign and drop around and turn around and are back into the loading area. It's pretty cool. I like how the loading area seems kind of open. It just like feels, I don't know. I feel like the Hollywood effect is just really well done here. This is another picture of it. After its first launch, you're set into this big triple helix. Unlike a lot of, and there aren't a lot of launch coasters that have a helix directly after the launch, but this one does, and I think it's a really unique feeling. I was my second ever gray out on a roller coaster, and I really enjoyed it. It has a lot of good sustained G forces, and it feels just super unique. And there's another drop here. There's a little tunnel here, and it's supposed to be like the parking ramp you're racing through. Yeah. So this coaster is definitely gives a high thumbs up for me. It's still pretty like it still isn't so intense that like you wouldn't enjoy it if you're younger or not as used to roller coasters. And it's a pretty decent coaster if you've never done a launch before, because it's not too uncomfortable or too intense for you. So yeah, this is the park's oldest and newest coasters climbing side by side. Isn't it beautiful? We have Orion up here and the Racer up here. Sadly, on the second day we were here, the blue track wasn't running, so I couldn't get them both going. But the first time we were there it was, so I got to ride both, and the racing operations were done very well. And it's very fun to race in wooden coasters. I kind of have a soft spot for racers. Even though it's one of the rougher coasters I've experienced, I still thought it was pretty cool for what it is. This is another picture of Steel Vengeance. I'm not sure how it got here, but I guess I'll talk about it since it's here. You can see its little slantways hill before it goes to where the first roll is, and then there's this track here, this little hill before the mid-course brake run. And in the back row, it has a massive amount of ejector air time. It'll send you into low Earth orbit for a moment. It's pretty cool. And then back at Cedar Point, we have also another full picture of Wicked Twister with the Ferris wheel between it. There's a track there. It's cool how it kind of seems to be nested between them. I didn't expect to see how big this coaster would be up close, but it's a lot bigger than you'd think. It's bigger than a lot of other Intimate Impulses because it's Cedar Point, and that's exactly what they do. And yeah, and also a comment on my last video. I want to say that with Gatekeeper, like, I know I kind of was a little hard on it, but I want to say that if it were any park other than Cedar Point, Gatekeeper would absolutely just kick everyone else's butt in the park. If it were at any other park but Cedar Point, it would just absolutely dominate any other coaster in the park. But it's Cedar Point, so it's got real stiff competition. Anyway, back to Kings Island. This is the racer from the park's observation tower. You can see Orion in the back here. You got their swing ride, and you got their little antique auto ride, which is pretty neat. I really like rides like that too, so that was fun. And you can see it racing. There's one of the turns. The other turns out this way. Is pretty neat. You can see more of the racer now. You can see both sides. Last time when I was there, the blue side was really cool because it kept catching up, so it actually felt like a true racer. I still prefer American Eagle to this racer, but I did like this racer quite a bit. And these turnarounds were retracked fairly recently, from what I could tell. I don't know exactly when, but they felt a lot smoother. And I can only imagine how rough it must have been before then, but I'm glad that it wasn't too unbearably bumpy. There were a couple of kind of uncomfortable spots, but I can tolerate them because I really like wooden racers and just racers in general. You can also see the Backlot stunt coaster here. It's kind of cool how it looks like it's under construction, but it's not. It's just the theming. So there you can see there's turns and parts of the track here. It does a lot for how little it looks. And here is the sign gateway to Schwarzkopf's Heaven, the Whizzer, Six Flags Great America. Isn't it beautiful and charming? And this is a view I got after my patience was rewarded on the first time I went on Max Force. I was given a row 1 seat by the ride operator since they were assigned seats because they, had to cycle through riders. And it absolutely blew me away, especially with all that compressed air. Here's another good view of Steel Vengeance. It's a little bit more zoomed out, I think, than my old one, than the previous one in my previous video. Yeah. And lastly, we have this Maverick Sign. It's a really cool theme. It's got the wanted poster with all the descriptions and stuff, and it's got the logo, And it's cool how like it shows a lot of the features of the ride, and it's got the little arrow. And yeah, it's probably neck and neck with Dragster's my favorite coaster theme. Is it definitely just looks epic. And my brother even said that this is one of the coolest roller coaster logos he's ever seen, which I agree. It is one of the coolest, and it's definitely merchandise worthy. But I wanted to go with Millennium because, you know, I'm Millennium born too. So that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you all for watching. If you haven't seen the other two photos episodes, I highly recommend you do. Um, and thank you all for watching. Happy International Photography Day, and I will see you all later. Toot toot.